Hey, what's up? It's Nick Poliokini. I am on one of the most incredible ocean liners that has ever sailed the seven seas. Well, maybe not all seven seas. And Rebecca, this stunning beauty to my left, will be able to confirm that for us. But right now, I am in downtown Long Beach on the Queen Mary, which is an absolutely incredible place for you to visit. No matter if it is to come for Sunday brunch or maybe stay in this incredible suite. We're in the Churchill suite right now, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's so much that happens at the Queen Mary all year round, not just, things that go bump in the night during the fall when everybody comes out for Dark Harbor or any of those more fun things, including Rebecca Knight, who is an incredible in residence, a paranormal investigator here on board. She's a researcher and has so much to do. But I want you to get to know Rebecca, or us to get to know Rebecca, a little bit better before we dive into all the incredible things she does here at the Queen Mary specific to that. So, thank you very much for taking time out of your crazy busy day.
Oh my goodness, thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh. No, this is, I'm excited because we've already met and we've already done a paranormal investigation together, and it was so much fun. But thank you for inviting us back because I want to talk to you and let's dive into it about Rebecca. So my favorite question always is, did you have a nickname as a kid?
I mean, it's Becca mostly. I would always be called Fiery or Bubbly.
I love it. Okay.
But not like, it's
Right.
more just variations of my name.
No, which I understand that, but still, it's so funny. And I've
Not like a kid in sports.
Correct. But no, it's still like the funniest part is like some people have come up with like, oh, my dad used to call me Bug. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Becca, and what's your background? Where are you from? Are you born and raised here in Southern California or
Born
no?
and raised, small town El Segundo, right next to
Great.
LAX.
I love it.
Up at the end of the LAX runway.
Okay.
So used to be a heavy sleeper.
I bet. I have no doubt in my mind.
El Segundo loves its, they're really great with kids and kids programs. So like their Parks and Rec was great.
Oh, okay.
And they're very big into musical theater. So they had theater was always kind of a big center point that like everybody in the town, whether you had a kid or not, would come out and do it.
Okay.
One of those friends that like you have because your grandmas are friends, you're forced to hang out with. She was in a show, and it takes place at the high school that I graduated from. Small town, we call it Mayberry.
It's crazy to think here in Southern California, and you and I know El Segundo.
Yeah.
You know it way better than I do, but just in general, you don't think of that small town vibe, especially where it's located and with LAX.
Well, and it's LA's #1 most business friendly city.
Correct.
So
to this day, and it just expands more and more.
There's it doubles its population during the day because of how much business takes place there, if not more than doubles.
Right.
I mean, because that's Raytheon, Boeing, the Air Force. There are so many things that are based in El Segundo. So every time I get like a package of snacks or a makeup brand, I look at the bottom of the email and it says El Segundo. I'm like, hey, hometown.
No, I think it's great. Now, the question that I have for that specifically, family in aviation at all or no?
Nope.
Okay, family just in theater or just you in theater?
No, just Bay Area.
Okay.
And it's just me in theater. So we go to see The Friend in a show.
Okay.
And at intermission, I turn to my mom and I'm like, I want to do that. And she has stage fright. And she looks around at the 999 seat theater that my high school was blessed to have.
That's incredible.
And she's like, you want to get up in front of all these people? And I was like,
see, that's so exciting though, because you knew early on, not necessarily where life would take you, but what you were interested in.
Yeah.
And we're talking, like, what age are we talking that you were in the theater? 7.
7.
So very early on,
Yes.
grade school age. Siblings?
None.
Just you?
Spoiled only child.
That's fantastic. No, in the best way possible. No, truly.
But also, I was only child to a single mom and only had one set of grandparents, which we were very lucky that they were, in the city next door. So they were able to help out single mom, in raising child, while she's working a full-time job. But so they were the ones who took me to auditions and got me out to be able to pursue those things that I wanted to do in performing.
And did acting for you start when you were 7? Is that
yeah?
So it wasn't just the inspiration of going and seeing it. It was
started it. Yeah, I started performing in musical theater right after that. The next show, my mom signed me up, and then all through high school, I was in either high school drama or the community Parks and Rec or this program called Young Americans that
I'm well aware of.
only makes a stop in El Segundo every year, and every other town gets them every other year. So that's how big El Segundo just focuses on this and loves it and embraces it. So I started performing in community theater at 7 and then professionally at age 10.
What was your first show?
I don't know
It's
why I'm
okay.
drawing a blank. I think it was no, was it Alice in Wonderland? And it was like a variation, that like the in-town choir director wrote his version of it so that you're not doing
Okay.
the copyright Alice in
Yes.
Wonderland. So it was called Alice in the Trials of Wonderland.
Okay. I can feel that though.
But all those years and as a child, it was Fiddler on the Roof and Oklahoma
Okay.
and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And I still have
So you had a great
my
time.
window washer.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say you had a great time with all the classics in that aspect.
Yes, yeah.
Now, have you been drawn to straight plays or just mostly musicals?
When
For
I
you,
got-
as you've time
When
has
I
gone
got
by.
into high school, I started competing in the like Fullerton Festival and
Sure.
D-Task, and so I have always been the only child, solitary.
Sure, okay.
So I was always drawn to monologues, and I found that I did really well at the dramatic monologues of pulling emotion out of people and like doing those dramatic like tragic things or getting people to connect with that character. I love comedy. I hope I'm a funny person. Like
No, and I think and we don't know each other well, but having experienced each other and had enough off-camera time and off mic time, yes, I think you are a full package, and I think that's
Thank
is a
you.
benefit. And granted, it's taken time
Yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
hone your patter and get that whole thing together.
Yeah.
But I think you really embody a level of confidence that people really pursue and maybe don't reach. And I think
Yeah.
it's because so many people don't find that authenticity in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think you really have been able to accomplish that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I also feel like it's the normal performer thing of like the not to be sad, but like the Robin Williams effect.
No, I get it.
Like we're all a little broken. We all have our
100%.
things, So you go out in the world and you put on your face and you're
Right.
okay. And especially when you're at work, you do your thing. And not to say I'm like depressed and sad.
No, and
No one ever is secure, and I don't want
Yes.
to come off as like, oh yes, I knew myself. Yeah.
but I think that's the thing. And I think that also speaks to something that we all experience, no matter with you, if you're in media or performing arts like we are. Imposter syndrome creeps in so
Oh my
easily.
gosh. And I feel it so much
Right.
in this line
Right.
of work too.
Sure.
Every time someone asks me, because I'm up front and I say, I've been investigating the Queen Mary for 5 years. And they goes, oh, so how long have you been investigating or where else? And I'm like, here,
Right.
5 years.
Right.
So I know I'm a baby in this field.
Sure.
And so I'm always like, I'm not worthy,
No, I get it.
Who am I to have this role and be doing this thing? But then like people come and experience it like yourself and just shower me with compliments, and it's so kind. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing okay.
You're
like,
doing really
all right.
well. And I think that's because, and we'll talk about it more when we get to part 2 and get
Mm-hmm.
more into your role here at the Queen Mary specifically, but you have such a casual nature, a casual confidence about yourself. Again, as we've already talked about, you've honed it over
Yeah.
time, but that really adds this really connective tissue kind of tangibility that most people don't put out there. And because this is when we get to it, it's based in factual data. It is all very much, this is not a, fun theatrical
Yeah.
performance. You're a talented actor who has that background.
Yeah.
But what you do here is not that.
Yes.
You do lend those skills
Yeah,
that
of
you've honed over
course.
the years, but that is not what it is. And
Yeah.
so, not to keep you dragged on, but you've got to tune into part 2 to find out more related to that. As you were growing up in El Segundo, what was it like for you? Did you do anything outside of theater, or was that pretty much it? I mean, obviously the monologues and as you
I
grew older,
begged
but
and begged to learn ice skating. I loved
Really?
watching the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
And those figure skaters, and I wanted to do it. But I'm also still to this day that scaredy cat that I will not ride a bike down a hill because I'm terrified that I'm going to flip forward on those handlebars.
really, even with the
So-
helmet.
even with the helmet.
Got it.
I'm going to end up on the street and just road rash.
No, which is great. I mean, you have a vivid imagination.
Oh boy.
Which speaks 100%. No, that's it. But I was saying, it speaks specifically to where we're at. And I
Yeah.
think that's funny. So, okay. So, no ice skating, no riding the
I
bike.
did do it.
Oh, you did do it.
I
Oh,
finally
okay.
got it for my 13th birthday.
Okay.
And by the time, because I was older, I was able to excel through like 4 classes. I skipped through 4 classes in the span of 1 class,
Right.
So I was like at the end of each day, they were like, no, go to the next one. No, go to the next one. So I did fine. But then when you get into jumps is when I was like, oh, but do my skates have to leave the ice? So I loved I love Tinkerbell. So
Okay.
I did get an opportunity to fly, you know, in a sense.
Right. No, you did. Because the rigging, and describe the rigging, what that is like, 'cause for people that don't know.
Like a rope diaper, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. No, truly, because if you've ever been rock climbing, is also part of that
Well, it's like
harness
the zip line
situation.
harness,
Correct,
yeah.
exactly. But I
Which
think
zip
that
lining I will do. I'm afraid of heights, but if I'm flying, I'm okay. But if I'm so lightweight that I get to the end of the line and then you're just stuck waiting until they reel you in, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
No, I understand. My sister is 5'1" and very slight. So like it's the same situation. We did parasailing.
Yeah.
And that was it. They couldn't. It was hard to pull her down. So I understand what you're saying.
Oh,
Like,
don't tell me that. That's something I want to try.
you're gonna do it. My recommendation is Santa Barbara, stunning area. There's plenty of parasailing elsewhere,
there
but
is.
Santa
I
Barbara.
keep watching the one out here.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got it here in Long Beach, but
Yeah.
I think that you deserve to go a little bit further north. And
Yeah.
have some
So
fun with it.
anytime I had to learn a new jump, I was like, "Can you put me in the harness? I don't want to do it without having feel it first." So you know, the instructor puts you on the rope diaper,
Right.
you know, and then pulls that thing when you go to do your leap, and so then that way they're giving you the air time to learn the mechanics of how to spin in the air and then
Right.
land yourself. And then if you do fall, like they're pulling you so you don't like fall and
Correct, exactly.
break yourself, you know.
We're random aside
Mm-hmm.
and completely taking us into the weeds, but would you ever do Tinkerbell's Flight as a part of Fantasy in the Skies fireworks at Disneyland? So that would be like bucket list style, you know? Yeah, because that just, and especially now, it's
If
been
you
a
know
kind
who
of
I need to talk to.
right. Disney, call Rebecca Knight. I've got all the details for you. No, for sure. So you moved in to high school. You've got the performing arts, all that stuff going on. What are some of the things that really connected with you as you learned more drama and music and everything else as you continue to grow? And, you know, kind of what did the education side of it look like for you? Because that's always a part that we like to talk about, because I hated school, but I was good at it.
Yeah.
I could fake it really well. I had a really good GPA when I
Yeah.
left high school, but it wasn't my cup of tea.
So I had a hard time fitting in with kids,
Mm-hmm.
and now like looking back and knowing myself a little bit
Sure.
better today, when I got out of middle school and then towards the end of high school, I started missing a lot of school because I
Okay.
would wake up in the mornings and I was like, I'm nauseous, I don't feel good, I can't go to school.
Okay.
Went to all the doctors, did all the things, and one doctor was just like, you don't want to go to school. And I'm like, I'm almost a straight A student. Like, I do well in school.
Sure.
That's not true. You just don't want to figure out what's wrong with me. And now looking back, I was like, oh, is that anxiety? You know, and that's
Right.
not something when I was in school that was really talked about, or at
No.
least not as prevalent and not for kids, you know. So now, like looking back at knowing myself and nausea, and I was like, oh, maybe that's what that was. Like, I didn't want to go and deal with these kids that were bullying me, you know, sending me home in tears.
Right.
So I was good at school because I could buckle down in, you know, my studies and do things. But also like I was still passing, even though mostly missing school. It was basically homeschool at that point, you know, and I was still passing A's, except for statistics. Bane of my existence. could not do it. But I was also an overachiever perfectionist.
Got it.
So I leapt into everything. I became, I walked into the yearbook class, dreamed of being part of yearbook from the time I was in middle school. And in middle school, for whatever reason, I think they just picked kids and randomly put them in that class.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, but I want to do that. How do I get to do that? High school, I filled all my credits. I did everything I needed to do. And then I got to where I could have an extra period and you couldn't have it off. I still had to fill it with something.
Okay.
And so I walked in junior year and I was like, hey, I want to be in yearbook. And they were like, great, no problem. We can put you in. And I was like, I would love to be editor next year. And they were like, no, that only goes to kids that have been in the class.
Yeah. Okay.
A week after joining, the teacher was like, next year when you're editor, I flipped her script
Got it.
within a week. Because that's how much I just dove into it and
Right.
did it. And it wasn't this like, I'll prove you wrong. It was just, that's just who I was. I was studious. You know,
Right.
if there's a task to be done, I did it. Which is probably why I do so much now.
Right. And I can't wait to talk about that more, because I think that's a big thing. And I think that's why I resonate talking to you when we're away from the camera and the microphone, because I can relate to what you're sharing. And I was very much the same in my own way. What did the future look like for you? So you're going through high school.
Performing.
Was it that? Did you do higher education or anything to that effect?
No,
Okay.
because with the single mom, there's not a whole lot of income. And I had this idea that, well, there's El Camino College. And I just had this idea that all the kids who didn't do well in school were just like, yeah, I'm just going to Elko.
Right.
And I was like, I'm studious, I do well. Like, I don't want to go to Elko with the kids that didn't apply themselves. So to me, that didn't look like an option. Why I decided that, that's just the way I felt.
No, and I get that.
But at the same time, I was like, I'll go to Elko and take tap. I'll take ceramics. I fell in love with ceramics and finally got to throw on a wheel, which was something I wanted to do. But clumsy me sliced my finger, and then I didn't get to ever actually complete a project.
So nothing went to kiln? You didn't finish anything or glaze it? Or
I did things without the wheel. I got to do ceramics and other things, but then when it was the week to go to and throw, I sliced myself with the thing to shape it, and then at that point you're done. I don't think I could glove up and do it. But so I was like, I can take the classes that will benefit me in the performing that I want to do.
Okay.
Like Juilliard and NYC, that was not a thing for me. That was not going to be a financially feasible thing for me. So I was like, I can take classes that will gain me the education and the practice and the resume credits and things that I need to pursue the thing that I want to do without wasting time in math and English. I can still pursue a higher education, but fit it to what it is that I want to do with my life and still gain knowledge, because you can drop into a community class and take the things that you're interested in. OCC did not understand that. They were like, you're taking interior design. You have to take math. And I was like, no, I don't. I just want to know how to make my living room look nice. Like, I'm not pursuing this as a career or a degree. Could not fathom that.
And I think the funny part, because I went to Cypress College, and so same local community college, and I audited classes, and I took away what I needed. And I think people like you and I have very different existences because we don't need to sit with a textbook and a specific aspect in that regard.
Yeah.
We are more students of life.
Yeah.
And then we augment it as you represented. I need to add this to my skill set. So let me go in and do this class. And I think that...
And also now today, we're in this generation that we're comfortable with the internet and everything that's out there. And there's so much free access content that you can learn almost anything on the internet. So that also is a huge help too, that anytime I need to learn something for business, I'm just like, oh, what do I need to know? Oh, I need to learn how to do this editing thing on a software. Okay, what do I need to know? Everything's accessible. I love baking. I just find recipes. My fiance's like, I'll put you in a pastry class. And I'm like, those are so expensive. And what am I going to do? Just make you souffles at home? I can watch the YouTube video and figure out how to do it.
I love that. No, but I think, and I think there's a certain level of hustle and there's a certain level of just natural hustle. It's not artificially created. It's, you were a, child of a single parent who had a lot going. You had your grandparents in your life, but you really saw life as an opportunity, it seems, to be able to, find your own path and find a way that fit Rebecca.
My quote in my senior yearbook was follow the path less traveled, or make the path that doesn't exist, or whatever. That was literally the quote that I picked, was that, because I've always been that person who just veers off.
And that's why I love having these conversations, specifically because we learn so much about those people that we idolize or we look up to or respect, and to find the backstory and how you got to where you are now is just incredible to me, because
you're also helping me remember who I am.
No, but I think
so lost in the business. I'm like, who was I? What did I do?
And I think that's a good point, because sometimes we don't have that brief moment to sit back on it. And so being able to kind of sit with a stranger, which is always easier for whatever reason to talk to. Some people are really into talking to people they know, but I'm 100% behind. You will tell a stranger more than you will ever tell somebody, your deepest, darkest secrets. And you're like, and then you go, why am I telling you this?
Yeah.
So when you went into adulthood, what did that look like? Did you just continue, going out on auditions, obviously, because that's where your life kind of went, I'm guessing.
So in conjunction with being editor in my high school yearbook, I got my first job. I beat out people who had a college degree in graphic design. And I was a graphic design and photographer for real estate. Was managing this other woman's business while she was on vacation for a month. So high school student, just, here you go, here's my business.
Right.
Overachiever.
I get it. Totally that way.
So I did that for a year, and then an audition came up for Disney to be able to join entertainment. And I was like, I've always wanted to work at
Right.
Disney.
Okay.
I was that weird kid though that I went on the canoe ride and I was like, I want to do this. I got no muscles.
That's okay though. But you will look
thing.
so good in those moccasins and that, no, I'm just saying that costume, no,
The roll-up
fantastic.
sleeve. I'm already there.
No, you're fantastic.
Disney, call me.
Yeah, I was like, Disney? Depends. The entertainment department.
So, spoiler alert, I got hired. I did do the canoe races one year because they do a cast member canoe race.
Which is so much fun and it's so early in the morning.
Oh my God.
And the training for that. And I love it. And like you say, with your muscles kind of thing. No, but it's the funniest part is the different lines of business because I did it too. So I hired in at the Plaza Inn on Main Street.
Okay.
So I worked at Disney for 5 years.
Okay. What years?
And I was there 98 through 2003.
Okay, we missed each other.
So, but it was a unique time for me because that was the expanded resort project. And that was also, we did the duck races as well along Rivers of America. They did just have them, which is kind of fun. And it was so fun to see them. And I like that how they've taken it now. But I remember doing the canoe races and it was such a special cast member interaction point because people don't realize the passion. And it's always unique when Walt set up that concept of a cast member as opposed to an employee.
Yeah.
And it has not always been perfect. But the vein continues to a extent now, where there's still a bit
a little harder now.
100%. No, and I agree with you.
I'd love to see it come back. But
I would, and I agree with you.
We
can open that can of worms for a whole different conversation. And I say that because I taught at the Disney University. I built the training program for the Expanded Resort Project. So that was it, and that was a different era.
Yeah.
And it is still incredible to go to the Disneyland Resort and see cast members who had that glimmer.
Yeah.
That we experienced.
Well, I was really proud to watch my old department sign the vote and,
to become a union. Yeah.
So, Magic United, I'm so proud of them. I'm so happy because the whole 10 years, almost 10 years that I was there, COVID, unfortunately, I got laid off in those COVID layoffs. I would have hit 10 years. But to see them sign the vote finally and to and part of that is this younger generation that people are like, they think they should get, and I'm like, they should get that. There are aspects of what they're asking for that they should get, and you should as well.
Correct.
But I'm so proud to watch them unionize, and there goes the brain, and I don't even remember how we got here.
Oh, no, that's okay. So we're talking about your time when you were hired on at Disney.
No, there was a point here. Oh,
you're fine. No, but we'll come back to it, because that's always the way it seems when you forget about it is when it comes back. But with all that, so let's go back to you running canoes.
People thinking they're just entitled to want to be unioned, and
that
they're like, oh, if you're so miserable at your job, go get another job. And I'm like, but they care about their job.
Right, they're passionate.
They care about the magic that they're trying to make and create for you, and that's way more important than them just being like, screw this, I'm going to go work at McDonald's, or I'm going to go get, I think that's incredible that they care so much that they want to make the job better so that it continues to be the magic for the people that come and experience it for the guest.
No, and that's it.
And it's the guest who is like, oh, screw you, you're just entitled. I'm like,
correct.
They're doing this for you.
No, exactly. And I think that's the hardest part because, and this speaks to you and El Segundo, me in the Inland Empire as a kid growing up and being a part of what was such a different era with theme parks in general. We'll just expand it out to beyond Disney. But that whole idea of being a part of the magic in some way, shape, or form, and being able to be a part of the story and being a part of, as we talk about here on In Conversation, a part of the fabric of Southern California. You are a part of that quilt. You are one little patch, because it's not the cog in a system.
No,
and that's how they treat it. They treat it like you're a cog in a system and a wheel in a system.
I fully am aware that I'm part of someone's vacation memory that's going to last them for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
And that's strange to think about, but that's something that impacted someone.
Yes.
And also I cared about that job, and how I represented it and how I took care of it.
And the amount of passion you brought to it that so many people did at that time and may or may not now, because I don't want to take and judge what I don't know.
And every person is different, individual, but you see a different level than what it once was.
Right.
And I get that frustration and why it's there.
Sure.
But no matter how frustrated I was, you walk on stage, you're on stage.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct with that. And speaking of that, so let's go back to your canoe and all the time you spent around Rivers of America. What was that like, and how long were you a cast member before you gallivanted off?
About 10 years. So I did the graphic design photography, saw the audition.
And you did the whole thing still, or no?
True, let's go. No.
Did you do both? You just,
I needed to leave that job.
Got it. Okay.
And so when that audition came up, I was like, let's go. And first audition and I made it in. I was lucky, I didn't have
Right.
to do the let's go back. I got in and I was like, great, I'll do this for a year. Like I get to say, check this off my list, do this while I'm young before I have to
Yes.
be serious.
Especially that role.
And like,
Yeah.
go actually pursue performing,
Right.
and like be focused on it or whatever I need to do when I grow up, and then that turned into, oh, I'm full-time here and I have health insurance and I like the job and I like what I'm doing, but also like, I'm performing, so I'm still doing the thing I want to do. Maybe not in exactly the way I want to do it, but it was still exercising that muscle.
Right.
So it scratched that itch in a way, So,
Which I think is good. And I think
Yeah.
I think even now it's great to acknowledge that and remember that.
Yeah.
So then COVID hit, obviously, like
Mm-hmm.
we talked about. And I think that, and we made mention of it earlier, what was your personal life like at that point? Like, obviously before COVID, not related to it specifically, but because I know there's a fiance in here
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
So, and there's a fun story and there's a unique connection there as well. So I want to hear about you as you have, kind of, not being too nosy, but a little nosy of like, let's talk personal life.
Yeah.
So now you're adult Rebecca.
Yes.
You are a cast member
Yes.
at the most magical place on earth. But what was it like? What was kind of like your work-life balance? Like, what were you doing outside?
Mostly just the work, Disney that was part of the union fight is it kind of takes over your life.
It really does.
I did get to a point of seniority that like, these are my requested days off and then I would get them,
Right.
So there is some sort of regularity in that. But every time there was like a shift in employment, you end up in a different spot and your
Right.
schedule shifts and your schedule changes. I definitely dated. I never thought I would be the person that would like always be in a relationship, but I was almost always in a relationship. So there was always, a guy that I was spending my time with. And then there was the hardest breakup I dealt with. And then that turned into the longest time I was single. And that's just the way it worked out. And I ended up going, you know what? I'm going to do me and I'm going to be the happiest I've ever been. I made a point to like travel and go do things that I hadn't done and had a thrill. I flew out to Chicago and got to see my friend workshop a show.
That's incredible.
She was Diana Ross in Trevor the Musical when they were workshopping.
Wow,
She was
that's
supposed to be
amazing.
Diana Ross in the Disney Plus, but she accepted another role instead.
Okay.
But that was incredible. That was my first solo trip. And I was like, I'm going across the country by myself,
Right.
and I'm going to go see Chicago by myself. So I walked around and did things. And then I went out to Sedona for my birthday. I did me.
That's a good point. And I think I like the way you say it.
Yeah.
You have done you from everything you've described from a child.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of too many people do not seize the moment.
Yeah.
That carpe diem, not to be
Yeah.
dramatic, but it's being able to really go out there and go, no, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a little scared.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to go do it.
Yeah. I've always said that my best breakup advice is go out and do the thing that will make him regret dumping you or being rid of you.
Sure.
And then you just do the things to be like, don't you want me? And then you find yourself at a point that you're like, I don't even want you. And I'm happy. You kind of do this like revenge happiness,
Right.
and then the revenge is on yourself.
No, I
you
get
end
it.
up happy.
I get it. I understand that. But I think, when you verbalize it, when you bring it into the room, that really helps to not just for you connect, but it also makes sense to other people. So I think that that's a big part of it. And where are your mom and your grandparents at this time period? Like,
They're all still around. Around there, my grandfather does pass. And that I learned that I should have taken my bereavement a little bit earlier than I did from work, especially when you're having to go put on a smile at work
Yeah.
every single day. And
It's
I was
hard.
like, oh, I'm going to save it for the funeral. We're going to go away. I'm going to save it for when I need it. And having to walk into work at the most happiest place on earth and be happy is part of that.
Right.
I found myself at work one day and I was like, I gotta leave. Just done. Grandma's still around, mom is around, still same houses, same places,
see, and what is that like for you to have? Because so many people don't have that special grounding like that.
It's-
Where we are right now with all the changes in the world the way that things are.
It's crazy because I've always itched to move. And then since finding my guy and being with Aiden, my fiance, we have moved so much, even if it's in a small place.
Right.
And then also adding to that from here and Colorado, you know, from going from never moving in my life to now with the guy I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, just
Right.
I'm like, can I just be in one spot now?
No.
So it's something I needed to experience and do, but it's also like this crazy shock of something that I've never dealt with before. I don't do well with change.
Okay.
You know, so like when we had to do the move in COVID from here to Colorado because we had a business that we could keep open out there.
Right.
You know, driving out there, I was just crying in the car. I was like, I'm sad. I was like, I know I'm going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. And I know I'm going to be back in California. But in this moment, I am sad. And it's just learning to cope with that or understand that or manage it. So COVID, you know, threw us all for a loop. But I was very lucky. My fiance is a magician. And he has the residency at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Which is it is the Stanley Hotel.
The Stanley Hotel.
That
the
Stanley Hotel.
Stephen King Shining Overlook Hotel, the Stanley Hotel. So that's what's put us in this field of haunted is, you know, he is what they call a bizarrist magician. And he's always found an attraction with the paranormal and ghosts and kind of telling their stories, the forgotten stories, and humanizing these people that may otherwise be forgotten or treated as this showpiece, as the you know, and he humanizes them and makes them real to people so that they can understand the humanity of this person. Also, you know, touching on historical facts and also making the Stanley Hotel a special place that people can feel connected to and understand, you know, the impact and the importance of that space. So we were very lucky that because Estes is a tourist destination, there's not as many people that live there, which means COVID cases were low. Which means it was one of 6 places in the United States that was allowed to have theater during COVID.
That's insane.
So we were open and Broadway was closed.
Right.
So we were very grateful that we could pay our bills and we had somewhere to land, and very cognizant of the fact that we were doing something that every usher, every ticket taker, every Broadway performer, every lighting tech in New York was not doing.
That's just... And not, I don't want to go too far into it, but how do you and Aiden meet?
He was doing that job and he got an offer to come out here and bring his show to the Queen Mary. And through that, we have a mutual friend, and he was like, you know, I'm going to need to hire somebody to run my house on the ship, you know, because like the girl that runs my house in Colorado is not able to come out and move to California, so I'm going to have to find somebody. And so a mutual friend was like, hey, I think this girl might, you know, work for you. And do you have any interest in a job? And, you know, they told me Queen Mary. And I was like, I love ghosts, haunted. Yeah. And they were like, magic. And I was like, yeah, magic's been in my life for 5 years. I love magic. Let's go. So we interviewed, and he always makes fun of me that he always sees me walking up to the ship with my resume because he's never had someone interview for the job with him with a resume.
Got it.
And I was like, I didn't know. I brought my resume and my theatrical resume.
Which makes sense.
And my headshot.
Totally makes sense. All of those things are very important, yes.
I assume I'm doing this like a job and I'm managing a house.
Yes.
But also, like, is there a magician assistant aspect to this? Because I didn't know him yet. So I was like, do I need to be a performer? Do I need to be an actress? You know, like, what is the role that I'm filling? So I come out, and basically it ended up being a 3-hour interview where he told me his life story. I went home that night and I dreamt that we kissed, and I was like, ew, he's going to be my boss, because he offered me the job on the spot.
Okay. I love that that was your reaction, as opposed to so many, like, we literally have Sex in the City where people are like obsessed about their bosses. You're like, ew, that I can't do that.
I was like, ew, no. And then we... about 2 months later, a month, you know, he comes out, and that's when he officially opens the show. And by the end of the weekend, we were already like, I kind of like you. But half of his interview was, I'm not that typical magician. I'm not going to creep on you. You don't have to worry about me. Like, I'm not that guy. And I was like, totally great.
Right,
Awesome.
sure.
And then we did a staff night and a media night for his show. And I was like, hey, do you need water? Here's an hors d'oeuvre,
Right.
because they passed out little
Sure,
plates.
of course.
So I was like making sure that he was fed and watered and, just being the person that I am. And he was like, you have taken care of me more than anyone in my life ever has.
Okay.
And literally from the moment that like people met us in that theater that first weekend, we're like, oh yeah, your wife. And he was like, I could only be so lucky.
That's adorable. No, Aiden, I hope you're watching this just to see like the butterflies and the sparks here in the Churchill suite on board the Queen Mary.
But people were immediately calling me his wife.
Right.
So there was just something that just happened. I don't know what it was. And then when we kissed, he literally walked away from me and he was like, I'm not saying I love you, Becca Knight. I don't even know you. And of course, now we discuss and he's like, yeah, I was already in love with you. It was done. I was done.
That's... I love this story. I am so excited. The best part is, and I don't know how, we're going to have to take in conversation on the road some point, especially because Aiden is still in Denver, still at the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah.
And there's so much more that I would love to get into deeper, but you now have a great knowledge of Rebecca Knight, and she has an incredible story, and she, like me, loves to talk. In the best way possible, because I think we're natural that way.
For 3 hours.
We could easily. We could. We're not going to kiss like you and Aiden at the end of it, but
I don't think he would appreciate that.
He's fine with it. No, it's fine. It's 2024.
True.
Whatever happens. But be sure to check out the show notes at thisweekofnick.com. Also the link in bio at Nick Poliokini and This Week of Nick on Instagram to learn all the fun and excitement that you can enjoy here at the Queen Mary in Long Beach with Rebecca, because in part 2, we're going to get more into her being the resident researcher here on board and paranormal investigator and exactly how that all came to pass. And as always, Rebecca and I, we look forward to seeing you out and about this weekend.